Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer or subscriber. In today's video I'm going to be filming my July wrap up and my August TBR. I read 4 books in the month of June. Here they all are. There's a couple of big chunky ones, but I also just had like quite a slow reading month because the very first book I read took me a long time to get through. But yes, we're going to be talking about that, and then we're also going to be talking about my overambitious August TBR. I don't think I'm going to get through every single book that I'm mentioning here, but like in an ideal world I would. The first book I read in July was Legendary by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in the Caraval trilogy. The Caraval trilogy follows 2 sisters called Donatella and Scarlett as they get kind of swept up in this game, Caraval. It's like this kind of interactive circus. That's kind of the best way to describe it. But this is a fantasy book. There is lots of magic. It's a really beautiful, whimsical world. I really enjoyed Caraval. I gave it 4 stars, and I ended up giving Legendary the same rating, but I did enjoy Legendary more, just not enough for it to be a 4.5. If I still rated in 0.25s, this would be a 4.25. One of the points I brought up was the fact that there were vampire vibes, and I was so right about that. There's so much to do with kind of like blood magic in this, which is very cool. I think that the next trilogy, like the, what's it called, Once Upon a Broken Heart, explores that a bit deeper. I'm really excited to get to that trilogy, but I need to read the finale first. This plot really expands from what we had in Caraval. Like the world kind of opens up, partly because we're kind of hidden from some things in Caraval to like add that kind of element of unknown throughout that book. But as well as that, we did have another kind of Caraval game within this one, which I was worried was just going to be a repeat of what the first book did well, but actually it was different enough. It was in a different location, everything like that. Storyline was totally different that I didn't mind that so much. We also introduced to Jax in this, who's also another character who's in the Ballad of Broken Heart series. What's that even called? I don't know. And this book also follows Tella, who's the other sister. So in the first book we're following Scarlett, and I found out that I really enjoyed reading from Tella's perspective. I felt much more kind of engaged with the book. I just preferred her personality basically, and I'm worried that the next book is from Scarlett's POV. I could be wrong. It might be Jewel. That'd be fun. The one thing about these books is that they take me so long to read. Like this book is only like just over 400 pages, but for some reason this was like what I was spending the majority of my month doing. So whenever I read on these books, I kind of have to set aside that month. I have to be like, I'm not going to read that many books this month because I'm reading a Caraval book. So I have to kind of prepare myself with the final book, finale. Also, I didn't really like the direction it kind of hinted at that the third book's going in terms of Scarlett's character, because there's like this love triangle thing going on. I thought she was happy and content with her first guy, but apparently not. That's Legendary. I did really enjoy my experience of it. My favourite in the series so far. Next up, I read A Theatre for Dreamers by Samson. I did actually film an entire one book face reading vlog for this book, which I'll have linked and also down below, because this book was one of the ones that I predicted would be a 5-star read. Unfortunately, it was not a 5-star read. If you want to know why, I go into a lot of details in that video, exact reasons why this kind of missed the 5-star mark, but I did still really enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars. It's a beautiful setting. It's got those kind of European summer vibes that we're all obsessed with right now, and so this book is fantastic kind of escapism. It's definitely like a no plot, just vibes kind of book. It's set on the Greek island of Hydra in the 1960s, and we're following our main character Erica as she kind of interacts with this circle of bohemian creatives, one of which is Leonard Cohen, and there's a couple of other famous names in this, but it is just historical fiction. It is like based on true events. It doesn't at all read like a non-fiction book. One thing I will say is I found the pacing was a little bit off. The book kind of like meandered around throughout the majority of it, and then the very end was very rushed. We had like time jumps and things like that. I was kind of confused about what was going on. And I also forgot to mention this in the vlog, but I did come to dislike the main character a little bit, so yes. But like the odd lines were just so breathtaking. The next book I read in July was One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serle. I think it's Serle. It could be Serle. I should look up how to pronounce this because every single time I mention this book I never know what I'm talking about. This book follows Katie. She is in her 30s and she's grieving the death of her mother. She's married to this guy called Eric. Katie is American, but her mother and her had planned to make this trip to Positano in Italy, and the trip was scheduled for a couple of weeks after her mother's death. They obviously didn't know the mother was going to die. Kate just kind of has this choice about what she should do, whether she should go on the trip or whether she shouldn't. In the end, decide to go and just kind of live out those dreams for her and her mother. And she leaves behind her husband, who within her grief she's kind of pushed him aside a bit, and she kind of just can't cope with her relationship, so she uses this trip as like a break from him as well as something to kind of both connect with her mother but also manage the grief a bit better. This book would fall within the magical realism genre. Katie's mum Carol actually turns up in the book, and Katie comes to understand a completely different side to her mother, connecting with this 30-year-old version of the mother who she obviously never had the chance to meet. I gave this book a 2 stars. I really didn't like it, and I found that the main problem was about the main character's low regard for her husband, in terms of like absolutely just pretending he doesn't exist while she's just doing whatever the heck she wants on this like European summer. The kind of messaging of this book was really damaging because it wasn't just like she was justified in this attitude towards her husband because of her grief. Like, it wasn't really approached like that. It was like, who cares about him? He's back home. Like, I can do what I want here. And to add on to that, when Katie and her mother are having these chats at this time in Italy, when her mother's like come back to life in this kind of other dimension, her mother also says, what's the problem with like cheating on your husband? Like, surely that's not a problem. And Katie's like, yeah, it is a problem. And her mum's like, no, 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 that's just in your head. You're kind of leaning on society's expectations. But like, you do take vows when you get married. You do actually have an obligation to your husband. And I felt so uncomfortable with that. And also, towards the end of the book, Katie does kind of like come to understand that maybe her relationship with her husband is important to her. Well, she's just come to that conclusion. She cheats on him. And I was like, that's a slight spoiler, but like, definitely get the tone throughout the entire book. Like, there's so much kind of emotional cheating, not just physical. So yeah, 2 stars. Don't understand why this is such a popular book. It was also written so poorly. Not the book for me. And then lastly, I finally finished up my read of Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is the first Austen I've read since I read Pride and Prejudice in school as a 14-year-old. Really disliked that, found it so boring, but I think it was 100% because I was really young. I actually really enjoyed this experience so much. I read the first few chapters physically, and then I switched over to the audiobook on Audible, which is narrated by Rosamund Pike. It was honestly the best audiobook experience I've ever had. It was fantastic. She did such a good job at bringing each and every single one of the characters to life and really reading the story in a way that really explained it and was kind of easy to understand as a reader. This book has like a decently large cast of characters, but I think I managed to keep up with all of them, and I really enjoyed my time reading this. I thought it was so much fun. Jane Austen is such a clever writer, which I know is not a hot take because she's a classic author. Her books are classic books for a reason, but her writing kind of just like was astounding. It was so good. I've already got so many annotations and I need to catch up and a bunch more. I just had the best time with this and I'm so excited to read more of her novels. So I'm going to read you the little description here because this is only a little paragraph and I'm sure my explanation of it would just go on and on. Elena is as prudent as her sister Marianne is impetuous. Each must learn from the other after they are forced by their father's death to leave their home and enter into the contests of polite society. The charms of unsuitable men and the schemes of rival ladies means that their paths to success are fraught with disappointment, but together they attempt to find a way to happiness. My one complaint with this book was that I did find that the ending was quite rushed. As with every single Jane Austen book, there's a classic kind of proposal scene at the end and we were not shown any of it, we were just told about it. That's just like a very flat, just like no for me in books. I want to see this important scene we've been leading up to. I was so excited to finally witness it and then it was kind of brushed over. The other thing is that even though Elena is kind of the character we're following, Marianne is kind of the focal point of the story in a strange way, and I felt that her marriage didn't make sense for her character, or maybe it made sense for her character because of like character development throughout the book, but I didn't think that there was true love between the two characters, between her and her husband, and I felt that there was pressure from like her brother and her mother and her sister in order to marry that person. So I didn't like those parts of the story, but everything else was just perfect. I love it so much. It was a 4.5 up until the very end and then I dropped it to a 4, but still so good. Such a fun time, and I think this will be one of my favourite Austens even once I've read all the rest of them. I plan on reading Northanger Abbey maybe in November time, sometime this year anyway. That's it for my July wrap up, and now we're going to go into my August TBR. Got many books to mention here, like I said. Here they all are, and I've also got a Kindle book which I will pop on the screen. But yeah, I'm going to kind of go in order of the priority of books I'd like to get to, but you'll see as we go along. So the very first book I'd like to get to and actually finish is one that I've already started because I started this as soon as I finished one of the other books, and that is Happy Hour. This book is so good so far. I'm only 45 pages in. This is another book that I actually remembered was on my 5-star predictions list as well, and I'm having the most fun with it. It's only 250 pages, something like that, just over 250 pages, and it's such a good time. The way that I pitch this book is as a Sally Rooney kind of book, like conversation with friends. It's also very kind of exciting times when Nisha Dolan, but it's not sad girl. This is set in the summer. It's not a sad girl summer, and it's just two girls who've moved to New York for several months and are just thriving, living their best lives, and it's a joy. I'm just loving the kind of breath of fresh air in terms of like the positivity of it all, because there's kind of no consequences to these girls' actions, and it's amazing. So yeah, that's that. I've already raved about it, so hopefully, I don't know, I have such a good feeling about this. But because of A Theatre for Dreamers, I'm scared of saying things like feel like a 5-star, but it feels like a 5-star. That's the first book. I want to read that this week, and then over the weekend and into the next week I want to read this, Despair by Vladimir Nabakov. Vladimir Nabakov is of course the author who wrote Lolita, which is a book that I read when I was 18 and I really loved a lot. I thought his writing was fantastic. My support for Lolita is a hill I'm willing to die on, so there we go. That's that. Anyway, Despair follows this man, Herman Hearn, and he meets this man called Felix who he believes to be his doppelganger. Things kind of spiral from there. He gets a bit out of control and I think it ends in a murder, which is a bit dramatic, but I love this cover. Pink on Monoclassics, which is fantastic. And did that rhyme? Almost. This book I'm reading for a video, so all will be revealed very soon, but it's only 150 pages, so I think I probably could kind of get through this one quite quickly. Plus I think I'm going to be motivated because I'm only reading it for a vlog, so that's that one. After the classic, after the lit fic, I feel like I'm going to be a little bit kind of needing a break. I've been kind of needing a break for a while, so I would like to pick up a fun romance book, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. My first Tessa Bailey, one of my first kind of like extremely popular romance books. I'm very, very excited about this one. This follows Piper, and we also follow Brendan, is that his name? Brendan, yeah. Piper is a socialite. She lives in LA or Miami or something like that. But anyway, she's sent from there to this little town, Westport in Washington, so that she can kind of stop being a party girl and start, you know, taking some responsibilities in her life. And while she's there, she meets grumpy fisherman Brendan. It's just set in this like little small town by the ocean, and it just sounds like a good time. And I have to read it right now because it happened one summer. I can't not read this book in the summer. So this is a high priority as well. I'm just slightly scared of it because it just feels long. It's not. I just looked at it today and it's under 400 pages, but for some reason this terrifies me. I think it just like looks really big. I don't know, but I am excited about it. I would love to read that this summer. Happy Hour and that one are also on my summer TBR. Another book on my summer TBR is Frenchman's Creek. This has been on this year's summer TBR and also last year's summer TBR. So this is another book that I really, really want to prioritize. This is another modern classic, so I feel like that would be fun after having finished the contemporary romance book. This book follows Lady Donna, and she escapes court life in London and she moves away from there to live in her husband's Cornish estate, and while she's down there she meets a pirate, an outlaw hunted all over Cornwall. I don't even know when this is set, but it just gives such like summer vibes and it sounds amazing. And I've been putting off this book for so long, not even because I've been putting it off, just because things have got in the way. But it's only short, it's literally like 200 pages and it looks like so much fun, so I'm very excited and I would love to read that one. The other two books I have to mention are also ones that have been on my summer TBR, but I don't know whether I'm going to actually end up getting to them. I mean, I would love to, but whether I'll have time is a completely different thing. So the first one is Getting Lost by Annie Ernaux. I sound like a broken record, but I loved Simple Passion by this author, and this is the book that's kind of like a bit of companion to that one, so I would really like to read this one not too far from when I read Simple Passion, and I read Simple Passion in May, I believe, so it's about time that I read this book. The other thing is that this book is told in kind of like little diary entries, this little broken up paragraph, so I think it could be a decently quick read, and it's only just over 200 pages, so again shouldn't take me that long realistically. It's just about how tricky this is to read, just because I think that it's going to be quite deep and meaningful. It might be quite profound and therefore a little bit difficult to get through, but we'll see. Getting Lost is the diary kept by Annie Ernaux during the year and a half that she had a secret love affair with a younger married man and attaché to the Soviet embassy in Paris. And then Simple Passion is based on that affair, but it's like a semi-fictionalized novel, or just it is more of a novel than it is literal diaries. I'm hoping to really love this one as well because, like I said, I loved Simple Passion. It was a 5-star read for me. So that's that one. Ideally would also love to get to it, the pile's stacking up. And then lastly, I don't have a massive desire to start this now, particularly because it's the first in a series. This is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which is the first book, the Neapolitan Quartet, so a 4-book series. It was on my summer TBR, so I feel like I should read it realistically, but whether I'll get to it, it's like I said, a completely different thing. A ravishing, generous-hearted novel, My Brilliant Friend tells the story of Elena and Lila, born in a poor but vibrant neighbourhood in Naples. So it's a maybe, it's a hopeful. And then the very final book I have on here is a book that's on my Kindle, and that is Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. Again, it has summer in the title, so I feel like it could be fun for this season, but I don't think it's on my summer TBR, so again, it's not like a massive priority. And also, it's very, very similar to a book called Love and Other Words, which I haven't read yet, but Love and Other Words came first, so it's clear that this one copied that one, and I think that I would like to read Love and Other Words first, so I give that one kind of a fair shot before reading this one. So I might save this one till next summer or next spring or something like that, but yeah, I also don't know much about this. I think it's childhood friends to lovers, and then something goes wrong, and then they reconnect years later, and I don't know. But yeah, those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including Every Summer After, books that I want to read throughout the month of August. Is it going to happen? I mean, I would think I would be breaking records within my own like reading capabilities if I managed to get to all of these. We can hope. There's definitely, like, I'll definitely read probably these 3, I'd say, and then which of these I'll get to is, I mean, Frenchman's Creek is a priority. If I got to these 4, I would be content, and then I would love to read maybe one of these 2 or Every Summer After. That's everything I have to mention. That's all the books. We're not going to add any more to that stuff because that would be insane. It's already crazy. But thank you so much for watching this video. I had so much fun being here and so much fun filming for you. I post 2 times a week and I only missed 1 day last week, and it still feels like I haven't been here in forever. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to stick around and see how many books I managed to get to throughout the month of August. I will film an August wrap up and you shall see the results of this experience. I would love to have a 5-star in there because I haven't had them in such a long time, but you know, I've had a lot of kind of mid reads, particularly over the last couple of months. That's it. That's all. I'll see you very soon for another video, but until then, have a lovely rest of your day, lovely rest of your week. But for now, bye bye.